are listening to The Story Points, a podcast where the worlds of product and engineering converge to delve into topics that resonate with us in our daily professional lives.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Story Points. Have you ever asked AI a simple question and got a confidently incorrect answer? Well, what you've just experienced is what we call AI hallucinations. And today we're going to dive deep into why this happens and what it means. And most importantly, as a user, what you can do to prevent it to the extent that it's possible. Um, Joining me today is again Roopak, someone who spends half his time amazed by AI and the other half telling it, no, try again, do this, do that. So welcome, Roopak.
Thanks, PK.
So welcome, Roopak.
Cool. Thanks, PK. And yeah, keeping AI honest and consistent is kind of my second job right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started, Roopak. Quickly, set the stage for us. What exactly do we mean by AI hallucinations?
So, in very simple terms, hallucinations in AI, like large language models, you must have heard of ChatGPT, Claude, Bard, are when they confidently say something which is incorrect. Think of like your overly confident friend who spins up trivia on the fly, but when you Google it, it's completely off the charts.
Right. Okay. Cool. So let's, before we go into the details of why and what and all of that, any favorite hallucination examples that you want to cite for our...
Yeah, one of my favorite is when Google announced Bard,
Mhm.
and in their demo, they asked it about the James Webb telescope, and it confidently said that it was the first telescope to take pictures of an exterior planet, and it was completely wrong. And what ended up happening was when this news broke out, and this was the first demo of Bard, Google's stock plunged like crazy.
Okay.
And why this is a good example is that even a simple hallucination can have such a large impact on a company's value or someone's self-respect, a lot of things, right?
Crazy.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Okay. So tell me, what can one do to control these hallucinations?
So, I think before we go into what we can do, I think we should understand what hallucinations are, and
Mhm.
then we'll probably have a better picture of what we can do to improve them or get past them.
Okay.
So, hallucinations, basically, what we have to understand is large language models. The way they learn is they're looking for patterns in the data, right? We
Mhm.
talked about it in our last episode, and given that they have learned from an enormous amount of data, whenever we are asking them something, they have to predict the next word,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes whatever they are predicting is highly unlikely, and hence we end up seeing what we are calling as hallucination.
Okay.
Right now, if you take a step back and look at it, in most of the cases, this could be lack of context.
All right.
Right. So, what I mean by that is, imagine that you're asking which city is bigger, Hyderabad or Bangalore.
Mhm.
Now, here, the question seems to be valid, but the context is sort of missing. You could probably ask a better question by saying, which city is better in terms of area or population,
Right.
and you would most likely get the right response or closer to the correct response.
Got
So
it.
I think this nails down the first thing in terms of how you can or what you can do about hallucinations, which is giving more context or being more specific about what you're asking.
Okay. So I just want to retrace the last few conversations that we've had, right? Which is that we know hallucinations are a part of how LLMs work. And we don't exactly know why this happens, but we do know that it happens, right? And what you've touched upon is what can one do to um, sort of control this?
Yeah.
And the first thing that you touched upon is giving context and being a little specific.
Right.
Great, fantastic. This is also what we call as prompts. Is that correct?
Exactly. So again, if we take a step back, this everything that we're going to talk about today would be about prompt engineering. Like, how do you use prompts, which is the primary method of interacting with LLMs today, and make sure that you use them correctly
Yeah.
to get the information that you want or to get the task done
Mhm.
at hand.
Mhm.
So yes.
Okay.
So like you said, the thing which we mentioned about being specific is exactly the part of prompt engineering.
Fantastic. Okay. So, what else can one do in terms of prompts to reduce hallucinations?
Right. So maybe we can follow a checklist. So the first one, like we've already mentioned, be more specific.
Mhm.
The second one you can do possibly is you can ask the LLM to play a role for you. Right. So imagine that you want to travel to Rome and you want ChatGPT to generate a very good itinerary for you. So you can ask it to play the role of an expert travel agent, and it would know that, okay, it kind of makes sure that uh, it follows that persona,
Mhm.
as well as it narrows down the domain for the LLM. So if I have to talk in technical terms, um, the right parameters will be activated inside the LLM when it's doing that.
Got it.
When you mention that it has to follow a particular rule.
I do have a quite a funny story to share in this context.
Yeah.
So, I think early on, and I'm saying this as though LLMs have been around for decades now, but a few years ago when LLMs just started, there was this school student who would constantly write his essays or their essays using LLMs. And obviously, the teacher at some point sort of saw those patterns and they said, sorry, this is not happening. And then, the student started submitting assignments and everything went fine, but only to realize later that the student was actually still using LLMs, except that at this time, he had basically told the LLM, act like a 7 standard student and give me the essay on whatever topic and make the mistakes that a 7th standard kid usually does. So now the responses that the LLM had was so natural that the teacher or the evaluator just couldn't find out a difference between what the LLMs generate and what the kid actually ends up writing. So this was a story that somebody
Yes.
shared, and that kind of connects very well with what you just said.
Exactly. Really clever use of the prompt. Exactly.
Right. I won't be surprised if the student was Indian though.
Cool.
Right.
Moving on to the next item in the checklist would be what people call as chain of thought.
Mhm.
You can also call it step by step. So imagine that you're doing something complex, something logical, let's say solving a mathematical problem.
Right.
It'll be better for you to ask the LLM to do it. First, think about it, right? Imagine that you have to do a calculation
Right.
using LLM. And typically, LLMs are not good at calculations, but they can do better when you tell them that, hey, do this step by step. So you have a long equation to solve, just ask it to break it down into multiple steps, follow the steps, plug in the numbers, and you'll most likely get the right answer.
So it's like, is it like saying, if 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, if 4 plus 4 is equal to 8, tell me what 252 plus 252 is.
Right. Right. And this is something I would call as few shot prompting, where you're giving
Correct.
examples
Hmm.
and now you're asking it to learn from them and then replicate it on another problem, right? Um, there is a very good example which led to the creation of a new uh, type of LLMs called reasoning models. And this question came up a lot on internet. This was, how many R's are there in the word strawberry? Now, by default, because of the way LLMs work, you would probably get the answer as 2. However, the right answer is 3. But if you tell the LLM that, hey, break down the characters in this word, go step by step, and wherever there is an R, count it, and finally tell me the number of R's. It'll end up doing the correct thing.
Got it.
Here.
So that is chain of
Exactly.
thought prompting. Okay,
Yes.
so there's a difference.
Yes.
Chain of thought is prompting the LLM to think out aloud when the LLM is processing a
Exactly.
query for you. Whereas few shot prompting is to give it some examples and then say, tell me this. Given that X is equal to Y, tell me what something else is.
Yes.
What is Z or whatever, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, got it. Okay, what else?
Yeah. So next is constraints, right?
Mhm.
And this is very similar to role playing, right? You can a very simple constraint is write me this article in less than 100 words, right? So this is something which helps you get the precise answer. Sometimes when you ask a question, you end up getting a long, multiple points and whatnot. But
Right.
sometimes all you want to see is just one line of answer. So in that case, it's better to just tell it that, tell me in one line. And
Got it.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Can you also extrapolate that to prompts which tell the LLM, give this particular information to me in a table,
Yes. Yes.
or give this information to me in a graph after you've processed whatever that I've given you?
yes.
So that
Yes.
is a constraint that you're sort of, maybe it's also a specification,
Exactly.
but you're also kind of providing it some sort of a limitation by saying not more than 10 words, not more than 3 sentences.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So there is a difference. Specification is one, but constraint is sort of slightly different, but also equally important and effective in reducing hallucinations.
Exactly.
Cool.
Again, everything that we're following is kind of helping us narrow down
Mhm.
whatever we are doing.
Right.
And sometimes you might want to not just narrow down, expand on it, like we did in chain of thought.
Mhm.
So you have to be pragmatic about it. Like depending on the task which you're doing, you might want to decide that what kind of output you want, and based on that, tweak your prompt.
Cool. Okay. I think the other one is also context, right? So
Yes,
like you
yes.
said, role playing, but then another kind of context can be, given that I'm the first time visitor to Italy, act as an experienced travel consultant and tell me. So you're
Exactly.
giving it context of who you are,
Right.
so that it can sort of give your results to be
Right.
more accurate.
Right. Context is also about making sure that the output is more holistic, in the sense that, like you said, you're the first time traveler. You can also add in, I'm traveling with my wife and kid. Like that. So
Got it.
it'll make sure that whatever it's suggesting, maybe it should also include a kid friendly place as well. So things like those subtle things which you add will definitely help you get better responses.
Awesome. Cool. So I love it so far. We've talked about 5, like a format which has 5 things that you can follow.
Yeah.
One is specification. Second one is role playing, right? Third thing is we've talked about introducing a constraint. And we've also touched upon a chain of thought sort of prompting.
Right.
And finally, we are saying provide more context.
Exactly.
Awesome. Now, we've touched upon little bits and pieces of some examples, some references, but can you, let's get more practical. Can you explain, can you illustrate what you mean by all of this? Let's take one example and then sort of go
Yeah.
further. So maybe, it's nice that we started off by how you talked about Bangalore versus Hyderabad and which one is, can you expand on that a little bit more and then we can take it forward from there?
Yes, exactly. So let's say you ask the same question, which
Mhm.
city is bigger? The way you could improve it is that you can be specific about whether you're asking for population, let's say you're asking for population, which city is more populous,
Right.
Bangalore or Hyderabad?
Mhm.
You could also say that what source would you like the answer from? For example, you could say based on the 2021 census,
Right.
right? And generally, given that we are in 2025, the model would have the data from 2021 and it will use that to answer it, right?
Okay.
And you can further build up upon this and say, cite two more sources for this data, right? So if the model has information about the same data from different sources, it'll cite that. And then you can validate that, okay, whatever is there in the 21 census is matching the other sources as well. So that kind of reinforces that this answer is correct.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So that's really a solid session of tips and tricks that you've talked about, Roopak. So again, just so that we can encapsulate this very quickly, what we should remember: always be specific and clear, use roles and context effectively, encourage AI to reason step by step so that you're reducing the probability of hallucination, and finally, demand sources when you want accuracy, and teach AI to. So one thing that I think we can do is you can teach the AI to choose among its own answers and recommend what is best.
Right.
This is probably something that we've not talked about specifically, but I think one of the more advanced things that you can do, or more intricate things that you can do, is when you feel like you need to be absolutely sure, you need the LLM to be absolutely sure of what result it's giving us, you can even tell the LLM that if you don't know the answer to this question, say I don't know, and it's okay.
Right.
So it will sort of make that also a part of its sort of answering thing. And yeah, I think these are the last few things that I wanted to say. So awesome. This is with that, I think we'll call this session a wrap, or this episode a wrap. And thank you folks for listening to us, and keep sharpening your prompts. Remember, it's the more you do this, the better you'll get at it. And while we are talking about prompts and how do you refine your prompts, also remember that LLMs are getting better every second that we speak. So there might be a time very soon where you don't need to do prompting, or maybe you do, but all of these things that we've talked about is not relevant anymore. So just keep that in mind, because the world is progressing so quickly. All right, that's it. Thank you so much, Roopak, and thank you everyone.
Thank you, PK.